The cosmic distress call. The quantum scanner hummed softly in the background as Commander Elena Torres completed her final checks for the night shift at the Deep Space Listening Post. Located in the heart of the Atacama Desert, the facility represented humanity's most advanced attempt to hear the whispers of the cosmos. But in 15 years of operation, they had never heard anything like what was about to come through. The first sign was subtle, a fluctuation in the quantum field that shouldn't have been possible. Elena's fingers froze over her console as she watched the readings spike and stabilize into a pattern too precise to be natural. She had seen enough random quantum noise to know the difference between the universe's background chatter and something deliberately crafted. "Dr. Patel," she called out, her voice steady despite the adrenaline rushing through her system. "I need you to verify these readings." Dr. Raj Patel glanced up from his workstation, where he had been analyzing data from a distant pulsar. In his 20 years as the facility's lead quantum physicist, he had developed a reputation for being unflappable. But as he made his way to Elena's station, even his normally calm demeanor showed cracks of excitement. The message that emerged from the quantum static defied everything they thought they knew about physics. It wasn't just a signal. It was a cry for help encoded in the fabric of reality itself. "These patterns," Raj muttered, his dark eyes scanning the data streams. "They're operating on quantum principles we haven't even theorized yet. Whoever sent this has mastered the manipulation of reality at its most fundamental level." Elena leaned forward, studying the cascading numbers and symbols that filled her screen. "Can you decode it?" "I think." Raj's fingers flew across the holographic interface, writing new algorithms on the fly. "The message itself is acting as a decoder. It's teaching us how to understand it." As they watched, the quantum patterns began self-organizing into recognizable data structures. The message that emerged sent chills down Elena's spine. To any civilization capable of receiving this message, "Our universe is dying. We have searched through 1,000,000 galaxies and countless timelines. You, humanity, may be our last hope. Your species possesses something unique, something we lost eons ago. Please respond. Time is running out." Elena's hand trembled slightly as she reached for her comm unit. This was the moment every DSLP operator trained for, but none truly expected to face. "Central Command, this is Commander Torres at Deep Space Listening Post. Priority Alpha. We have a verified first contact situation. I repeat, verified first contact." Within hours, the facility transformed into a hive of activity. Government officials, military personnel, and the world's leading scientists converged on the remote desert location. The message continued streaming in, carrying with it vast amounts of data that began painting a picture more terrifying than anyone had imagined. The ancient civilization called themselves the Archivists. They had achieved technological mastery beyond human comprehension, but in doing so, they had lost something essential: the ability to think outside their own perfectly logical, perfectly predictable patterns. "They've reached the limits of their evolution," Raj explained during an emergency briefing with world leaders. "Their technology can reshape reality, but they can't solve this problem because they can't imagine solutions that don't follow their established patterns of thought." "And they think we can?" General Sarah Chen asked, her skepticism evident. Elena stepped forward, pulling up a holographic display of human history. "Look at our story. Every time we've faced extinction, we've survived not through superior technology or strength, but through our ability to think differently, to try the impossible, to break patterns." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity, the cosmic equivalent of a child species, might hold the key to saving beings so advanced they could manipulate the fundamental forces of reality. The quantum signal pulsed again, adding urgency to their discussion. New data streamed in, showing the scale of the crisis. The universe was experiencing a cascade failure at the quantum level, a breakdown in the basic forces that held reality together. The archivists had detected the first signs billions of years ago, but their every attempt to halt the degradation had failed. They've tried every logical solution, Raj said softly. Now they need something illogical. They need human chaos. Elena stood at the observation window, watching the sun rise over the desert. Somewhere out there, across unimaginable distances, an ancient civilization waited to see if humanity would answer their call. They had mastered the cosmos but couldn't save it. Now they turned to Earth, to a species that had barely taken its first steps into space. Send the response, she told Raj. Tell them humanity accepts the challenge. As the quantum signal carried their message back across the cosmos, Elena couldn't help but smile. The universe had called for help, and humanity, young, chaotic, unpredictable humanity, would answer. Their greatest weakness, their inability to follow logical patterns, might just prove to be their greatest strength. The adventure that would reshape reality itself was about to begin. The impossible choice. The global response to the archivist's message was immediate and intense. Within days, the world's power structures underwent a transformation unprecedented in human history. Ancient rivalries gave way to a unified purpose as humanity faced its greatest challenge and opportunity. Dr. Kai Chen stood in the newly established Quantum Response Center beneath Geneva, surrounded by holographic displays showing the archivist's technical data. As Earth's leading expert in theoretical physics, he had spent his career pushing the boundaries of what science considered possible. Now those boundaries weren't just being pushed, they were being completely rewritten. The technology they're describing, he explained to the assembled world leaders, it's beyond revolutionary. They're not just manipulating matter and energy. They're rewriting the operating system of reality itself. The implications of the archivist's data were staggering. Their civilization had achieved what humans would consider godlike powers, restructuring entire galaxies, creating and destroying matter at will, even manipulating time itself. Yet they found themselves helpless before the universe's slow decay. Here's the problem, Kai continued, bringing up a new set of calculations. Implementing any of these solutions will require resources on a scale we can barely comprehend. We'd need to convert significant portions of our solar system's mass into exotic matter. The risk to Earth would be extinction level, finished Dr. Maya Santos, the head of the newly formed Human Survival Council. Her dark eyes swept the room. If we attempt this and fail, humanity dies. If we succeed, we save not just ourselves, but possibly the entire universe. The room erupted in debate. Some argued that humanity had no choice. The opportunity to advance their civilization by millennia was too valuable to pass up. Others warned that the archivist's message could be a trap, a way to eliminate a potential rival species. In the midst of the chaos, Elena Torres received another quantum transmission. This one was different, personal, almost desperate. The archivists had sent what could only be described as their memories, showing the true scope of the crisis. She watched in horror as entire galaxies winked out of existence, their fundamental forces unraveling like cosmic thread. The degradation was accelerating, spreading across the universe like cracks in glass. The archivists had tried everything their vast intelligence could conceive, but their solutions were too perfect, too logical. The universe, it seemed, required something messier. We need to show them, Elena announced, interrupting the ongoing debate. The room fell silent as she projected the archivist's memories for all to see. This isn't just about us anymore. This is about everything that ever was or will be. Dr. Peril, who had been quietly analyzing the technical data, suddenly straightened. There's something else in these transmissions, he said, his voice tight with excitement. The archivists didn't just send us problems. They sent us tools, building blocks for technologies we can barely comprehend. But, he paused, looking around the room, they're incomplete, like they're waiting to see what we'll do with them. Understanding dawned across the faces of the assembled leaders. The archivists hadn't chosen humanity by default. They had chosen them because of their unpredictability, their ability to take existing pieces and recombine them in ways that defied logical progression. Maya stood, her decision made. "We put it to a global vote," she declared. "Every human being deserves a say in a choice this momentous." The vote took place over the next 72 hours. Every person on Earth, from the largest cities to the most remote villages, was given access to the information and a chance to decide humanity's future. The turnout was unprecedented in human history. As the results came in, Alina stood with Raj and Kai in the Quantum Response Center, watching the numbers climb. The final tally appeared on screens worldwide. 89% in favor of accepting the challenge. "Humanity has chosen," Maya announced to the world. "We will answer the universe's call for help. We will risk everything to save everything." The real work was about to begin. In research centers around the globe, scientists began studying the archivists' technical data, looking for ways to implement impossible technologies with limited resources. They would have to reinvent physics itself, and they would have to do it before the cosmic degradation reached their corner of space. As the sun set on humanity's last day, as a planetary civilization, Alina received one final transmission from the archivists. Unlike their previous messages, this one was simple. "Thank you. Show us what chaos can create." The message carried with it the complete blueprints for what the archivists called a reality forge, technology that could reshape the fundamental forces of the universe. But the blueprints were unlike anything humans had seen before, less like technical schematics and more like poetry written in mathematics. "They're not telling us how to build it," Raj realized, studying the strange equations. "They're showing us the underlying principles and waiting to see what we'll create." Alina smiled. The universe had presented humanity with an impossible choice, and humanity had responded as it always had, by choosing to attempt the impossible, breaking the laws of physics. The Reality Forge project transformed the face of human civilization. Where once nations guarded their scientific secrets, now knowledge flowed freely across borders. Former adversaries found themselves working side by side, pooling resources and expertise in humanity's greatest collaborative effort. Dr. Isabella Martinez stood in the heart of the quantum engineering complex, watching as teams from a dozen countries worked to build something that should have been impossible. The facility, carved into the bedrock beneath the Andes Mountains, hummed with energy as experimental quantum matrices took shape. "The principles the archivists sent us," she explained to Alina and Raj, "they're not just advanced technology. They're a completely different way of thinking about reality itself. But their approach is too perfect, too rigid." Isabella gestured at the holographic models floating around them. Where the archivist's designs showed precise, symmetrical patterns, the human versions were oddly organic, almost messy. "We're not just building their technology," she said. "We're rebuilding it in our own image." The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Dr. James Chen, a quantum physicist who had always been considered somewhat eccentric by his peers, noticed something in the archivist's mathematical poetry that everyone else had missed. The equations weren't just describing reality. They were describing every possible version of reality simultaneously. "Look here," James said, highlighting a section of the floating equations. "The archivists are trying to solve the universe's decay by finding the perfect solution. But what if we don't need perfect? What if we need adaptable?" The idea spread through the scientific community like wildfire. Teams began redesigning their approaches, deliberately introducing controlled chaos into their systems. Where the archivists sought perfection, humanity embraced imperfection as a strength. The first test of their hybrid technology came 3 months into the project. In a heavily shielded chamber deep underground, scientists attempted to create a miniature version of the Reality Forge. The device, a twisted mass of crystals and quantum circuitry that looked more like abstract art than advanced technology, powered up with a sound that wasn't quite sound, more like reality itself clearing its throat. "Energy patterns stable," Isabella reported, her eyes fixed on readings that shouldn't have been possible. "Quantum matrix is evolving." "That's not supposed to happen." The device was doing something unprecedented. Instead of following its programmed parameters, it was adapting, changing its own structure in response to local variations in spacetime. It was chaos and order working in perfect harmony, achieving something the archivist's perfect technology never could. "Send the data," Alina ordered, her voice tight with excitement. "The archivists need to see this." The response came almost immediately. The quantum transmission carried with it a sense of excitement that transcended language. The archivists had never seen anything like what humanity had created, a technology that could think for itself, adapt, evolve. But their success came with a price. The power requirements for even this small-scale test had drained the energy grid of 3 countries. Building a full-scale reality forge would require more resources than Earth could provide. "We need to think bigger," Raj said during an emergency council meeting. "The archivists converted entire planets into energy sources. We don't have that luxury, but we do have something they don't: creativity." The solution came from Dr. Maya Santos, who had been studying the quantum communications with the archivists. "We've been thinking about power all wrong," she announced. "The archivists use brute force because that's what they understand. But look at how our test device adapted. It didn't just use energy, it worked with it." Her proposal was audacious. Instead of trying to generate enough power to brute force reality into submission, they would work with the universe's existing energy flows. It was like the difference between building a dam and designing a river. One tried to control nature. The other worked in harmony with it. The next phase of construction began immediately. Around the solar system, quantum sensors were positioned to map the natural flows of spacetime. The reality forge would tap into these currents, using them to amplify its effects without requiring impossible amounts of energy. As humanity raced against time to complete their greatest creation, the archivists sent regular updates on the universe's deterioration. The cascade of decay was accelerating, threatening to reach Earth's corner of space sooner than initially predicted. But something else was happening too. The quantum communications were changing, becoming more human. The archivists, exposed to humanity's chaotic creativity, were beginning to think in new ways. Their rigid patterns were evolving, adapting, learning to embrace uncertainty. "They're changing," Elena realized, studying the latest transmission. "Just as we're learning from their technology, they're learning from our chaos." In the depths of the quantum engineering complex, the reality forge took final shape. It was beautiful in its irregularity, a physical representation of humanity's unique approach to problem-solving. Where the archivists would have built a machine of perfect symmetry, humans had created something that looked almost alive. The journey beyond. The launch window was rapidly approaching. Humanity had one chance to reach the coordinates the archivists had provided, a point in space where the universe's decay had already begun to manifest. The reality forge would need to be tested there, at the edge of existence itself. The vessel designed to carry their creation defied conventional spacecraft design. Named Prometheus, it looked more like a quantum probability cloud than a ship, its hull incorporating elements of the reality forge's adaptive technology. It would carry a crew of 12, the minimum needed to operate the experimental systems. Commander Elena Torres stood in the launch facility, watching final preparations with a mixture of pride and apprehension. She had been chosen to lead the mission, along with a hand-picked team of the brightest minds Earth had to offer. "The ship's quantum drive is operating within expected parameters," Dr. Isabella Martinez reported, her hands dancing over holographic controls. As chief engineer, she had overseen the integration of human and archivist technology. Though with this system, expected parameters is a relative term. The crew gathered for their final briefing. Besides Elena and Isabella, there was Raj Patil as quantum physics lead, Maya Santos heading communications, James Chen managing the reality forge itself, and 7 others, each chosen for their unique combination of expertise and adaptability. "The mission parameters are clear," Elena addressed her team. We have approximately 72 hours after arrival to deploy the Reality Forge before the decay becomes irreversible. The archivists will guide us to the target zone, but after that, we're on our own. The launch itself was unlike anything in human history. As Prometheus powered up its quantum drive, reality seemed to bend around it. There was no thunderous rocket ignition, no dramatic acceleration, just a subtle shift in the fabric of space-time itself. Quantum matrix stable, Raj reported from his station. The ship is, well, I'm not sure flying is the right word. We're sort of suggesting to space-time that it might be more convenient if we were somewhere else. The journey that should have taken centuries at conventional speeds took just under 3 weeks. The crew watched in awe as their vessel navigated through quantum probability spaces, taking shortcuts through reality that the human mind could barely comprehend. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. 2 weeks into the journey, they encountered something the archivists hadn't warned them about: quantum storms, areas where the universe's decay had created turbulence in the fabric of reality itself. Conventional shields failing, Isabella shouted as the first storm hit. The ship shuddered, its structure groaning under forces it was never designed to withstand. Elena made a split-second decision: divert power to the adaptive systems. Let the ship handle it. It was a risky move, but it worked. Prometheus responded like a living thing, its quantum-infused hull reshaping itself to ride the probability waves rather than fight them. It was exactly the kind of adaptive solution that would have never occurred to the archivists. "We're getting something," Maya called out from her station. "The archivists, they're studying what we just did. They've never seen anything like it." The quantum transmission carried a sense of excitement that bordered on awe. The archivists had watched as humanity's creation adapted to a situation they had considered unsurvivable. It was proof that their decision to reach out to Earth had been correct. As they neared their destination, the effects of the universe's decay became impossible to ignore. Space itself seemed to be unraveling around them, reality fraying at the edges like old fabric. The ship's sensors detected entire star systems blinking out of existence as the quantum cascade consumed them. "Recording everything," James reported grimly. "The decay pattern is evolving faster than the archivists predicted. We might have less time than we thought." Finally, they reached the coordinates. The view that greeted them defied description. A vast void where space-time itself had begun to break down, spreading outward like a cancer in the cosmos. At its edges, reality flickered and wavered, as if unable to decide which laws of physics to follow. "This is it," Elena announced, her voice steady despite the gravity of the moment. "Begin Reality Forge deployment sequence." The crew moved with practiced precision, their months of training paying off as they prepared to activate the most advanced device ever created by human hands. The Reality Forge emerged from its housing like a blooming flower, its irregular crystalline structure catching and refracting light in impossible ways. "Power systems online," Isabella reported. "Quantum matrix stable. Well, as stable as chaos can be. Archivists are standing by," Maya added. They're praying for us." "I didn't know they could pray." Elena took a deep breath, looking at each member of her crew. In their eyes, she saw not fear but determination. They had come farther than any humans in history, carrying with them the hopes of not just their own species, but of an ancient civilization and perhaps the universe itself. "Begin the sequence," she ordered. "Let's show the universe what humanity can do." The Reality Forge powered up, its crystals pulsing with energy as it prepared to rewrite the laws of physics themselves. Whatever happened next would either save existence as they knew it or prove that even humanity's creative chaos had its limits. They were about to find out which. Rewriting the stars. The Reality Forge hummed with power as it faced the void where universe met ununiverse. Energy readings spiraled beyond anything their instruments could measure as the device prepared to do what its creators had designed it for, to rewrite the fundamental laws of reality itself. "Quantum matrix at full power," Raj reported, his voice tight with tension. The decay pattern is responding. It's like it knows we're here. Through the ship's viewports, they could see reality itself beginning to warp. The void seemed to pulse, sending waves of unreality that threatened to overwhelm Prometheus's adaptive shields. "We're picking up something from the archivists," Maya called out suddenly. "They're detecting changes in the decay pattern that they've never seen before. It's learning from us." Elena leaned forward, studying the readings. The void wasn't just a mindless force of destruction. It was adapting to their presence, just as their technology adapted to it. An idea began to form in her mind, one that the archivists with all their perfect logic would never have considered. "The decay isn't just destroying reality," she said slowly, pieces falling into place. "It's trying to create something new, something that doesn't follow the old laws of physics." "That's impossible," Isabella protested, but her hands were already moving over her controls, recalibrating the reality forge. "The laws of physics are fundamental. They can't just change." "Why not?" James asked, his eyes lighting up with understanding. "We've already proven that reality is more flexible than we thought. What if the decay isn't a breakdown? What if it's evolution?" The archivist's next transmission confirmed their theory. The ancient civilization had been so focused on preserving the universe as it was, they had never considered that it might be trying to become something new. Their perfect, logical solutions had been fighting against the natural evolution of reality itself. "Reconfigure the reality forge," Elena ordered. "Instead of trying to stop the decay, we're going to help it. Controlled evolution instead of preservation." It was the kind of insane, illogical plan that only humans would attempt. The archivist's transmissions carried a mixture of horror and fascination as they watched humanity prepare to do the unthinkable, cooperate with the force they had spent eons trying to stop. The reality forge's crystals pulsed with new purpose as Isabella and James reprogrammed its core functions. Instead of trying to reinforce the existing laws of physics, they would help guide the universe through its metamorphosis. "Ready," Isabella announced, "though I have to point out that we have absolutely no idea what we're about to create." Helena smiled. "When has that ever stopped humanity before?" "Activate the sequence." The reality forge reached out into the void, its chaotic energy patterns interacting with the quantum decay in ways their instruments could barely detect. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then, slowly, the void began to change. Colors that had never existed before blossomed in the darkness. New forms of matter and energy emerged, following laws of physics that wrote themselves into existence as they watched. The void wasn't destroying reality. It was becoming a cradle for something entirely new. The archivists, Maya gasped, reading their incoming transmission. They're laughing. I didn't know they could do that." Through their quantum link, they could sense the ancient civilization's joy and wonder. After billions of years of existence, they were witnessing something truly new. The birth of new physics, guided by the creative chaos of human intervention. The process took hours, during which the crew of Prometheus watched reality remake itself. The decay didn't stop. Instead, it transformed into a controlled process of cosmic evolution. New stars ignited following new laws. Matter organized itself in ways that defied their old understanding of physics. And through it all, the reality forge acted as a bridge between what was and what could be. "It's spreading," Raj reported, monitoring the quantum readings. "The controlled evolution is propagating through space-time. The universe isn't dying. It's growing up." When it was over, they found themselves floating in a cosmos that was both familiar and utterly new. The old laws of physics still operated in most places, but they were now part of a larger, more flexible framework that allowed for change and growth. The archivist's final transmission was different from anything they had sent before. It carried not just information but emotion. Genuine, chaotic, imperfect emotion. In trying to save the universe, humanity had given them something they had lost eons ago: the ability to embrace change, to find beauty in imperfection, to laugh in the face of impossible odds. As Prometheus began its journey home, Alina stood at the viewport, watching new stars burn with impossible colors. They had come to save the universe and had ended up helping it evolve instead. It was perhaps the most human solution possible, not to fight against change, but to ride its wave into something new and wonderful. The universe called for help, she said softly, and humanity answered not by preserving the old, but by daring to imagine something new. Behind her, the reality forge hummed contentedly, its crystals pulsing in rhythm with the heartbeat of a universe that was no longer dying but dancing to a new tune, one that had chaos and creativity written into its very laws. The archivists would spend millennia studying what humanity had achieved in those few hours. They would learn to embrace imperfection, to find strength in adaptation, rather than rigid perfection. And humanity. They had proved once again that their greatest strength lay not in their technology or their intelligence, but in their ability to look at an impossible problem and see possibilities that no one else could imagine. In the end, it wasn't humanity's mastery of physics that had saved the universe. It was their mastery of chaos, their ability to dance with uncertainty and turn destruction into creation. They had answered the universe's cry for help by teaching it how to laugh. And somewhere in the vast cosmos, new stars were being born, burning with colors that had never existed before, proof that sometimes the most powerful force in the universe is the ability to think differently.